Hello everyone, my name is Shambhavi and today we are going to discuss one more question on statistics. So basically this question consists of the topics which we have already covered in our previous videos, right? So now let's jump into the question and see that basically what is this question asking us to solve and basically how to solve the things which whatever this question is asking to us, right? Okay, so it is given that AC heating and air conditioning service finds that the amount of time a repairman needs to fix a furnace is uniformly distributed between 1.5 and 4 hours. Okay, let X is equal to the time needed to fix a furnace. Thus, X basically then X approximate you, and in bracket is 1.5 comma 4. Right now, there are sub questions for this question and there are sub points. Right, so here we have these five. Okay, now the first one says that find the, okay, so instead of this problem here it is probability. Okay, so let me do what just one thing. Okay, let me take this color and let me, okay, I will just cut this problem. Instead of this I would just write probability, B-I-L-I-T-E-B-I-L-I-T-Y. Okay, now, what it is asking? It is asking me to find the probability that a randomly selected furnace repair requires more than 2 hours. Okay, so here I just got a condition that I need to find the probability that a randomly selected furnace repair requires more than 2 hours. Fine. So here I just need to find a probability, right? Now let's start doing the things on this own only. It's fine. What I was given that there needs to be a fixed furnace in uniformly distributed between 1.5 and 4 hours. Okay, I just got this data 1.5 and 4 hours, and here what I need to find is that I need to find the probability, right? Now, what is the first thing that I would do? I would just find the fx, right? Fx. Now, how do we do all of these things? So what I need to do here is that I will just keep it here only. So here I will just firstly write as problem 1. So basically there are sub problems for this first question. So we have total 5. So let's see the first one for now. Okay, now what I'm going to do is that I'm firstly going to find the fx. Okay, to find fx. Now what we do to find fx? So fx, for finding the fx, we just write fx is equal to 1 upon 4 minus 1.5. So let me go downside. Okay, so it is okay. Just let me rub this thing once more so that I can just write the things in a more clearer handwriting so that you can just understand the things on a better note. Okay, so I would just write fx is equal to 1 upon, what was the value? My value was 4 minus 0. Sorry, it was 1.5, right? It was 1.5. Now when I would just do the thing, so after subtraction I would get the value as 1 is equal to 1 upon 2.5. After final one, what I would do, I would just get the value that is 0.4 after final divided. Okay, so from here what I can say that, so f of x is equal to 0.4. So this was my first step which I need to do, is that firstly I need to find the fx. So I have just done that thing. Now what is my next thing which I just need to solve here? Now next thing is my first question, that is asking me to find the probability that a randomly selected furnace repair requires more than 2 hours. Okay, so what I need to do here is that I need to find the probability. So I need to find the probability that x is greater than 2. Now what was x? X was already given above, that let x is equal to the time needed to fix a furnace, right? And we need to just find this thing only, find the probability that a randomly selected furnace repair requires more than 2 hours. Fine, so this is done. Now what I need to do here is that I would just go down this side. Okay, now I would just find the probability for doing this thing. Now what is the probability for finding this thing? So basically I have a furnace, and what was given here that repair need to formally distributed the time need randomly selected required. So basically I have two data points, 1.5 and 4, right? So basically what I can just put here, furnace is of a rectangular shape, right? So I would just write base into height, b into h, right? As I have already discussed these things in my previous videos, right? Okay, now what I would do now, what is my base? My base is 4 minus 2. Okay, and even what is my height? That is 0.4. So what I would just get as a final output, I would just get 0.8. Fine. So here I just got that. Now this is my probability that x is greater than 2. Now if I just want to plot a graph for this, how will I do that thing? So for that, just let me take black color, and here I would just take that. Okay, now if I just want to plot the graph for showing the same thing, now how will I do that? So basically I would just name a point here. Let's say that would be 0 0.4. Okay, that would be 0 0.4. I just give the value that is the 0 0.4, and basically that is the height, right? So on this y-axis I just give that 0 0.4. I would just write here as fx, and this one is the x for me. Right, this is now what else I need to do here is that I just need to mention the data points, whatever the data points we have. So let's say in our case we have the data points as, here I have 1.5, then I have 2, even I have 3, and even I have 4. So basically these are the data points which we have, right? Now what else we need to do is that now here I just need to plot the data, plot the graph that basically the probability of x is greater than 2. So what probability did I got here? I got the probability as 0 0.8, right? Now what I would do, firstly I would just make a rectangular, like I would just take the data points. I would just take the value that from this point and this point the values are there. So the values are from 1.5 to 4, right? So this is the value that basically we are having. Now what I need to do here is that I need to find, so here I just found the probability that is 0 0.8. Now what I would do, I would just put a line this side. Okay, now after doing that, what I would just do, I would just color the shaded portion. Okay, so I would just take a different color now. I would just highlight this thing, and yeah, so I would just shade this part. So just hold on for a second. Yeah, so here what I have done, I have just shaded this part, right? So the part which I have shaded right now, that part is the, so here I would just write, this part is the probability of x is greater than 2, that is 0 0.8, right? I hope you just got the idea that basically how we do the things in this, right? I would just write x here, and even I would just write fx of like 0, fx and the 0 0.4 this side, and even I just mentioned some values that are the values which we have in our like the problem which we are given. So basically this is the graph for plotting that. Now what from here, what can I just conclude? Okay, so just let me go down this side and let's start writing the things that basically what we can conclude here. So I would just write uniform distribution. Okay, uniform distribution between 1.5 and 4 with shaded, okay, so sh with shaded area between 2 and 4, representing the probability, that the repair time x is, and even I will just write it here, x is greater than 2. So what did I just wrote here? I just wrote uniform distribution between 1.5 and 4 with shaded area between 2 and 4, representing the probability that the repair time x is greater than 2. So what did I just write this? What did I just write here in a lot of this? What I just wrote, that uniform distribution between 1.5 and 4. Now just see this graph, 1.5 and 4. I just wrote this thing with shaded area between 2 and 4. So the shaded area we have. So I just wrote with shaded area between 2 and 4. Now after that what I just wrote, I wrote that what it is representing. So it is representing the probability that the repair time x is greater than 2. So if you just can take it from this graph only, that whatever I have written, so you can just get a proper idea, and like you need not to memorize these things, that basically what to write. So I would just again explain you that what I have written, that uniform distribution between 1.5 and 4. So 1.5 and 4 was my graph. Yeah, these were the points, starting and ending points in my graph. Okay, then what I write at the shaded area between 2 and 4. So I just stated the area, so I just wrote that shaded area between 2 and 4 represents the probability that the repair time x is greater than 2. So this was in my question, that I need to find that the probability of randomly selected furnace repairs requires more than 2 times, 2 hours. Okay. So this was the whole idea, that basically how you can solve the problem number 1 which is given in this question, right? So here we have just finished the uniform distribution for the problem number 1. Now let's quickly move on to the problem number 2. So problem number 1 is completed. So I would just do one thing here. So I would just take one of the colors, let's say I would just take red only. Fine. Now what about the problem 2? Now what is asking? It is asking me find the probability that a randomly selected furnace repair requires less than 3 hours. Now in the first one, what we were having that it requires more than 2 hours, and the third is it is saying that it requires less than 3 hours. Now if you just listen my things very carefully, whatever I have just told you, you will just get a proper idea that basically how to do the things right now. So I would just take the problem 2, and now I would not explain this thing in a very detail as I have done for the very first question, because the things are same, only a little bit of calculation differences in the second part. Okay, now I would just write that probability, what I need to find is that probability of x is less than 3, right? I would just need to find that it is less than 3 hours. Fine. Now again I would just put the same formula, that is base into height, right? I would just put the like let's say values. So base is my 3 minus 1.5, and what was my height? Height was same, that is 0.4. After subtraction and even multiplication, the final output which I'm gonna get is 0.6. Fine. So the probability that x is less than 3 is 0.6. Now if I just want to plot the same graph for this thing also, how will I do that? So for that, just let me take a different color and just let me draw that x and y axis once more. So I'm just doing that here only. Fine. Okay. So yeah, and yeah, I just want to go a little bit down. Fine. This is fine. Now what I would do, I would just mention that data points. So here it was 0.4. We have just find it out. It was fx. Here we were having x, and even we were having the data point. Let's say this was 0. And let's say I was having 1, and even I just mentioned the 1.5, then we were having 2, then we were having 3, and even we were having 4, right? So this was the like whole data which we were having. Now I would just take a color. Let's say I would just take a color that is green. Fine. Now I would just plot that. So I would just write plot from 1.5. I would take it till 4. Okay, so this is done. I've just taken it till 4. Now this is completed. Now what else I need to do here is that what we have done, basically now I just wanted to find the probability that x is less than 3. So the probability came as 0.6. So I would just put one like line from here, and I would just shade this part. So for shading, just let me take any color, and I would even prefer this one. Okay, so I would just shade this part and just let me shade that thing, and then I would just let you know that basically this is the probability that x is less than 3, right? We just found the probability. That probability is 0.6 that x is less than 3. The probability for this is 0.6. So I just did the same thing. I just shaded that part for 0.6. I would just put this arrow here, and even I would just write here probability of x is less than 3, right? So basically this is the whole idea about solving the questions, right? Here in the first question, I just did the same thing. In the first question, it was asking me to find the probability that a randomly selected furnace repairs requires more than 2 hours. So for more than 2 hours, we had did that x is greater than 2. Okay. Yeah, we have done that x is greater than 2. And for this, in the second part, what we were having that find the probability that a randomly selected furnace repair requires less than 3 hours. So for less than 3 hours, what we were having, x is less than 3. So here we have done the same thing, x is less than 3. And we did the same thing, we just found the base into height. Now base is 3 and this is 1.5. So I just did the same thing, and from here we just finally found out the whole idea about doing the things, right? So this is the whole idea about solving the first and the second questions. Now what about the third, fourth and fifth? Now let's see that the third question is asking me to find the 38th percentile. Fourth question is asking me to find the 25%, and even the fifth question is asking me to find the mean and standard deviation. So these are all of the topics which we have already covered, and even we have seen examples on this topics respectively, right? So you can just go to the playlist, have a look over that how to find the percentiles. You can just go like try out this third and fourth question, and even you can just go to the video where I have explained mean and standard deviation. So you can just have a look over mean, standard deviation, and try to solve this fifth question also. All the three questions you need to try on your own, and after in the next video I will just let you know the final answers and the final explanation, that basically how we are just going to solve these three questions. Okay, so for now today we have just discussed about these two parts. In the next video, we'll be discussing these three parts. Okay. So this is all for this video. Till then, thank you and bye bye.